You're listening to Civic Media. You can tune into any of our live shows on any radio station across the state with the Civic Media app. Find us in your phone's app store and listen anytime, anywhere.
You're listening to Mornings with Pat Kreitlow on WAUK. My name is Greg Bach. Happy Friday. We made it. The weekend is almost here, and this is what's going on in southeastern Wisconsin. I know that Election Day is more than a year away, but we got to talk about our candidates. We got to talk about the races. We got to talk about what's going on and what we need to get ready for 2026. And over the past few weeks, I've been playing interviews with people who have declared their candidacy for various seats around Wisconsin. And today, I want to introduce you to Trevor Young. In fact, I'm going to have Don Rosen introduce you because he sat down with Trevor to talk about his campaign for Wisconsin State Senate of District 21.
Well, welcome our guest. He's running for the 21st Wisconsin Senate candidacy. He's running for that seat, and it's Trevor Young. Thanks for joining us.
Don, it is an honor to be on the show. Thank you.
You said you were here when you were a kid, huh?
I have been here once when I was in high school, and there was a focus on community feature for young people, and it's good to be back.
Now, where were you born?
I was born in 1995, and I was born halfway across the world, so in Krasnodar, Russia. So my mom was not in a position to take care of me, so I was placed in an orphanage until I was 2 years old, and my dad traveled halfway across the world and saved me from a life of poverty and oppression and brought me to the center of the universe, Racine, Wisconsin.
How long have you been here?
My whole life. I went off to university at UW-Milwaukee, proud Panther, and
get that in there.
Yeah, and came right back to Racine after graduating with the degree in urban studies and urban planning.
Whoa. Okay. So now you're in the transportation department, right?
Yes. So leading public transportation for the greater Racine area.
Okay. What did you do before that?
Well, I served 2 terms on the Racine City Council, but professionally, I worked at Carthage College doing employer relations, talking to employers about recruiting skilled talent to, feed a pipeline for talent for employers across southeastern Wisconsin that Carthage had internship programs with. So that, informed an experience of what can we do to attract the next generation of talent to make sure that southeastern Wisconsin is competitive. So between that and my work in local government, it's been a real education.
So you work for the city now. You've been an alderman. What district was it, by the way?
District 9. So proud West Racine guy. So I actually went to daycare at Atonement Lutheran and lived right across the street on Wright Avenue when I was on the city council. So when people would ask my local cred, how are you connected to this neighborhood? I would always say I didn't go very far, right across the street from daycare.
I ask everybody who gets into politics the same question. Why would you want to get into it? Because 50% of the people are not going to like you for whatever reason. It just works out like that.
Right.
Same thing with disc jockeys. 50% of the people aren't going to like you for playing the Beach Boys or whatever you play. So why'd you get into politics?
Well, good question. So I owe everything to my hometown. Growing up in Racine, I had this kind of all-American childhood, Little League baseball, product of the public schools, took classes at Wisdom Art Museum, attended the Racine Theater Guild. So growing up here, I had this real sense of gratitude. Like, wow, this community saved me.
Did you work in the guild? Theater Guild?
No, just volunteer. Took classes with Mrs. Mount. That was my, theater days. And so growing up, it was like, wow, this is a pretty special place. My family has been here for 4 generations. My grandma, she actually owned a bar in downtown Racine. So as any good Wisconsinite, I have, that experience growing up at the end of it, the bar at the tavern. And so just this sense of community, this sense of gratitude. So growing up, I wanted to give back. And so looking at, how do we solve problems at a neighborhood level? I went off to university to study urban studies and urban planning because I think that that's where you make the biggest difference. And because of that, that inspired me to get involved in politics because I see if everybody works together, is focused on the right issues, we can really make a difference in people's lives.
21st District encompasses Racine.
Yes.
And what else? Just Racine?
So the north side of the city of Racine, up to Caledonia, Wind Point, goes all the way out to Raymond, and then north into Franklin, Hales Corners, Greenfield, Greendale, so the southwest suburbs of Milwaukee County. So it is a 50-50 district. We are going to have to earn every vote and talk to people where they are and focus on things that are important to families, like affordability, like housing, like good paying jobs, making sure we're taking care of the most vulnerable. So it's going to be an exciting one. And I'm really grateful that this is a fair district because the people of Racine and Wisconsin deserve an actual voice and an actual choice.
Okay, so now people hear the assembly, the state assembly, they hear the state senate. Do you guys vote on this? You obviously can vote as the whole body, but what's the difference? Is it just the size of the area that assemblymen and state senate people cover? Is that the only difference?
Yeah. So for every state senator, there are 3 assembly people. So there are 3 districts per state senate district. So in Racine, we have Angelina Cruz, and then we've got 2 other members of the assembly and the rest of the district. And so it is a bigger area, covers, geographically and population wise more. And so that just means that we're going to have to get out there and talk to as many people as possible before November of next year.
Well, you got to have some energy to run for office, huh?
Oh, yeah. I've got my cup of coffee from Wilson's right down the street here. So,
look at you.
Yeah, so we're ready to go.
Trevor Young is my guest. He is currently working for the city of Racine in the transportation department. What is the exact title?
The transit. So it's the transit department, and I'm the transit and mobility director for Ride Racine, the public transit system in eastern Racine County.
Look at that title. Whoa.
Yeah, quite the. I mean, when you have a little "and" in there, that shows you've made it.
Now that you've gotten to know Trevor a little bit, in the next hour, I'm going to play for you another excerpt from their discussion, and he's going to be covering what he wants to bring to his district, what he wants to bring on the campaign trail, and what he wants to hear from you, the voters. And don't forget to sign up for Civic Media Today, our new newsletter, by going to civicmediatoday.substack.com. You're listening to WAUK's local report on Mornings with Pat Kreitlow. To stay up to date with everything going on in southeastern Wisconsin, go to WAUKradio.com and sign up for our newsletter. For WAUK and Civic Media, my name is Greg Bach. I'll talk to you in 20 minutes. It's 6:59.
You're listening to Civic Media. Stay up to date on the latest news and information for your local community and Wisconsin by signing up for our free email newsletter. Visit civicmedia.us/email to get started.
You're listening to Mornings with Pat Kreitlow on WAUK. My name is Greg Bach. I'm back, and here's what's going on in southeastern Wisconsin this morning. We here at Civic Media are lucky to have a lot of great guests coming through, and one of them is always Cory Mason, who's the mayor of Racine, and he stops by Don Rosen's show every month to give people an update about what's going on, whether it's business openings, big events, or projects that are underway. Mayor Mason always comes through and lets us know what's happening in the Bell City so you can be aware and prepared.
Okay, the mayor is here. We're talking about a whole bunch of different topics. Let's talk. Let's start off with Clean Sweep 2.0.
Yeah, so we did a neighborhood cleanup sort of over at the 16th and Holmes area earlier in the year, and it was great. You know, we brought in a lot of city resources, so we brought in forestry equipment and DPW equipment and some dumpsters for people to get rid of bulky waste and some other things. We cleaned up the alleys. We filled potholes. We did a little light construction on some of the houses. But it was just, it was a nice before and after. The neighbors really loved it, right? They were glad to see the city come out and replace sidewalk squares. And really, we're at a place where we had dozens of city staff and lots of city equipment out there all at once. Firefighters were out there knocking on doors and handing out smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors into people's homes. So it was a really great way to sort of bring all the city resources to just a few blocks for a couple days. And it made a big difference. And so we'll be doing that again. And that's sort of the 14th and Center neighborhood coming up on the 16th and 17th. But it's a pilot project we've been trying this year, but the neighbors really seem to appreciate it. And you see a noticeable difference before and after when you do it. And it's a great way to get the community engaged with the city and the city get to know their neighbors that we serve every day. So we're looking forward to that one.
Excellent. Smoke detector is very important. We have a smoke detector. And when my wife is cooking in the kitchen, the smoke starts, a smoke detector. That thing is loud.
It is.
First of all, it comes up with a voice, fire, fire, and then it hits this alarm.
Yeah.
There's no way I'm sleeping through that thing.
Right.
So that's good. You want a loud one.
You do.
You want a couple of them in your house, just in your living room, but you need them all over the place.
And the carbon monoxide detector piece of it's important too.
Yeah.
So,
it's built into it.
Yeah, but it's great though. The firefighters knock on these doors and they do a little education about it. And they're like, look, we're happy to hang it up for you. Tell us what you need. And they go from there. So I think we distributed more than 40 of them just in a couple of blocks last time. So fire department does a great job. And so, and they're happy to rush out if there's a fire to attend to. But, the fire that they want to extinguish the most is the one that never gets started.
Oh.
So we're glad to do that.
Every time you see a house fire, you wonder, why didn't they have smoke detectors in there? They're so cheap. And it, not only save your life, your pet's life, it save your house too.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay, now we have the Great Lakes Climate Week. Now, this took you to New York City.
Yeah, so I'm part of an organization called the Great Lakes St. Lawrence Cities Initiative, right? So all the cities around the Great Lakes and the St. Lawrence Basin are in this organization. And I'm also part of another group called Climate Mayors. But it's the first time I've ever attended it. But every year, the United Nations, when they meet the General Assembly, they have some discussion about how are we doing on climate change? Because as a planet, we're getting warmer. And so it's really meant to sort of do that work. And so in the context of doing that, what we're finding is the Great Lakes, in the midst of sort of the climate change that's coming, is kind of the place to be. I mean,
now, talk about climate change for one thing, because people don't know. They say, does that mean the ice age is coming? What does it mean, climate change?
I mean, basically means that the average temperature of the planet will get up, another 1 to 4 degrees, depending upon what range you look at and what interventions we take, right? It also means that you get more intense and more frequent storms. So I don't know if you sort of thought about it feels like we get a 100-year storm every couple of years now, right? I mean, the reason for that is climate change. It puts more moisture. But, these hurricane events that we have that become more frequent, the mayor of Phoenix was there. She said they had 70 days this summer over 110 degrees. Just a phenomenal impact of it. So that has real impact on people's lives. And interestingly, all the studies sort of say, when climate change happens and the world gets warmer and weather gets more volatile, the place you want to be is actually the Great Lakes region, that we are sort of the least volatile in terms of the climate change that they're predicting for a number of reasons. We're interior to the country. We've got a lot of access to fresh water, but we don't have as cold of winters, but we used to. So the climate change for us is seen as a real opportunity, which means they're already using this term called climate migration, is what they're calling it, right? So I think for my parents' generation and my grandparents' generation, you saw a lot of people moving to the south because they wanted to be where it's warm. And I think you're seeing more and more people who are moving down there. It's like, wow, it's not just warm; it's hot. It's too hot. And so the expectation is that people are going to return to the Midwest. And when they do, we want to be ready for it. The one thing about climate change that we've been working on is it does provide, our fresh water provides access to cheaper energy and better access to tourism and reinvestment. So we're excited about what that means. We had a big discussion about it. There were, over 70 mayors from across the basin talking about the impacts of climate change, but then also getting the Great Lakes as a region ready for it. The other thing, Don, it's just interesting with the Great Lakes too. People don't, they always think about, you've seen the pictures of the Great Lakes, right? That icon that sort of lays them all out. But people don't really think about the Great Lakes as an economic region. And I didn't realize this till I got more involved. It's the third largest economic region in the world, not just in the country. But if you include both sides of the borders, the U.S. and Canada, it is one of the biggest economic areas in the world.
Shipping's got probably a lot to do with that.
Shipping's part of it, but a lot of industry, a lot of natural resources, a lot of energy production. I mean, it really is one of the more dynamic areas in the world. But there's 8 states and 2 provinces and 2 countries, so we don't always think of ourselves as an economic region. And it's really mayors across the region working together to say, hey, if we're strategic about this, we can really benefit economically and help protect the planet while we do it.
We always appreciate Mayor Mason's time stopping by Don Rosen Show, and he's there every single month to give you the update on what you need to know about Racine. And if you want to listen to that entire interview, go to civicmedia.us/shows. Look for the Don Rosen Show and find the episode entitled Talking with Mayor Mason. There you can download and listen to it anytime, anywhere. Again, that's civicmedia.us/shows. And sign up for our brand new newsletter, Civic Media Today. Go to civicmediatoday.substack.com. It's a daily roundup of everything we're doing at the network sent to your inbox absolutely free. Again, go to civicmediatoday.substack.com. You're listening to WAUK's local report on Mornings with Pat Kreitlow. For WAUK and Civic Media, my name is Greg Bach. I'll talk to you in 20 minutes. It's 7:29. You're listening to Mornings with Pat Kreitlow on WAUK. My name is Greg Bach. I'm back, and here is what's going on in southeastern Wisconsin this morning. Earlier, I played for you an interview that Don Rosen did with Trevor Young, who's running for state senate in Wisconsin for District Number 21. And we're going to get right into another selection because before you heard about where he comes from and his background, basically his story. Now he wants to talk about what he brings to the campaign trail and what he will bring to Madison.
You're running for the state senate 21st district, which encompasses Racine and part of Milwaukee County. We got to know you in the first section. Let's talk about some of the issues. What's wrong that you want to correct, and what do you want to add to what's going on in the state of Wisconsin?
Yes, great question. So, I see places like the neighborhood I grew up being left behind. The state of Wisconsin has a responsibility to make sure that we've got great schools, that we've got safe neighborhoods, that everybody has a chance to succeed and support themselves and their families. And I see that ideology and partisanship are really getting in the way of that. And, you've got for almost, over a decade now, this philosophy that says if we, engage in austerity and we cut, that, we'll rise to the top. And that, lab test has shown to not work. We used to be one of the top 10 states for public education. Now we've fallen down to, I think, 27. We have shared revenue, which supports, public safety at the local level and make sure that we can keep our police officers and our firefighters paid. That has been cut over 20% in real dollars since 2010. And so we are trying to do more with less, and it's harder to preserve a certain quality of life and make sure that we're developing the next generation of talent that can grow the economy. And so for me, it's about making sure that we get the basics right. More for our neighborhoods, more for our schools, and more for working families so that we address this crisis of affordability.
And healthcare is a major part of the state because the state has health plans, and a lot of people are panicking over the cost of healthcare. I hate to sound like an old guy here. When my mother took me to the doctor's one day, a big brouhaha was going on at the doctor's office. They raised the rates from $4 to $6 for a visit, and they had to pay cash.
Well,
and
that's exactly right.
The mothers were screaming at this poor receptionist who had nothing to do with this whatsoever. But nowadays, you go to the doctor, it's a couple of $100.
Well, that's exactly right. And you've got senior citizens, people who've worked all their life, people who are expecting, basic medical care to be accessible to them. They're getting letters in the mail from their insurance company and from their hospital system saying that they're going to have to look for a new plan. And here we are in the richest country on earth, in a great state, I believe the best state in the richest country on earth. And you've got senior citizens that are panicking about where they're going to be able to get health care. That is just wrong. And you've got other states across the union, Republican, Democratic states, that have decided to work with the federal government, bring in resources to make sure that they can expand access to basic health care. But Wisconsin is one of the few states that has said that they're not going to do that. And so for me, this isn't about left-right. This is about bringing resources in to make sure that families can support themselves and get access to basic services.
How do we talk to each other? Now, I don't know how it is in the state assembly and the state senate here in Wisconsin, but I watch what's going on in the Congress in Washington. Nobody will talk to each other.
It's horrible.
You got the Republicans and Democrats. They're bickering on everything. They won't talk. They won't have meetings. They hate each other. Well, they don't hate each other, but they don't like each other's ideologies, so they bicker and fight all the time. How do you plan to stop that? Is it that bad in Wisconsin or not that bad?
I think it's potentially getting there, and we just have to make a choice in this election to stop the nastiness. I think people are sick of the anger and divisiveness,
name calling, too.
and the name calling. And instead of doing that, we should be spending our time talking to people about what's really important. When I announced my campaign, we talked about the 5 T's to the success of Wisconsin and Southeast Wisconsin. Number 1, training. What can we do to make sure that folks have the skills that they need to support themselves and their families? Gateway Technical College was the first publicly funded technical college in the United States of America. We've got a tradition of this. Let's keep it going. Number 2, talent. We've got to build infrastructure and a quality of life that attracts skilled workers so that employers decide to move here. Tourism. I think this is the most beautiful state, and we live in the most beautiful part of it. What can we do to leverage that so that visitors fuel quality of life for residents? And then technology. We've got this technology revolution happening right now. What can we do to make sure that we capitalize on that to provide better services to the public? And then finally, transportation. I work in the field, and when transit stops, opportunity stops. So we've got to make sure that people can get to where they need to go. Doctor's appointments, jobs, schools. And if you combine those 5 things, which I think Democrats and Republicans, when your brass tacks comes down to it, can agree on this, and we can actually solve problems rather than bicker. And I think that once you leave the nastiness aside and talk about the issues that are important, that's what we need in Madison.
So right now we have a Democratic governor. That could change because Governor Evers isn't running again. Is it going to be tough to work with a Republican governor?
Well,
right now the Republicans control the state house.
Well, I want to work with everybody, and I hope we can bring down the temperature and, again, focus on the things that matter, because that's going to be the only way we make a difference in people's lives. And if you're not getting into this to make a difference, I don't know why you are, because it is tough and you are putting yourself out there. And if you don't care about that stuff, there's so many other things that you could do. So I would hope that Democrats and Republicans can come together to actually get stuff done. And maybe I'm naive, maybe that's being young, but I think we need a new way of doing things because the old way is not working.
If you want to find out more about Trevor's campaign, go to trevoryoung.com. That's TrevorJung.com. And if you want to listen to the entire interview, go to civicmedia.us/shows. Look for the Don Rosen Show and find the episode entitled Trevor Young's Plans for Wisconsin. Stick around, because after the top of the hour news, Pat welcomes Dr. Kristen Lyerly with a preview of her show this weekend and Mike Clemens with sports. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to WAUK's local report on Mornings with Pat Kreitlow. For WAUK and Civic Media, my name is Greg Bach. I'll talk to you in 20 minutes. It's 7:59.
You're listening to Civic Media. Find the latest news, information, and archives of all your favorite shows on the Civic Media website, civicmedia.us.
You're listening to Mornings with Pat Kreitlow on WAUK. My name is Greg Bach. I'm back, and here's what's going on in southeastern Wisconsin this morning. Sports are red hot here in Wisconsin right now, especially if we're talking about the Brewers going to the NLDS or the Packers just managing to get a victory. We're talking about all things sports, and we do that with JR Radcliffe. He's a writer for the Journal-Sentinel, and he stops by to give us the 411 with all of our favorite teams, and especially this week, he did a lot for me personally because my Brewers are playing this weekend, and I just want to win and go all the way. Is a ring too much to ask for, I say?
Everything is going to be okay, Greg.
There you go.
Not because of sports. Sports are going to crush us. Sports break our hearts. So that's not the thing.
I was listening to your fantastic podcast, Microbrew, as I do, because I like to listen to the experts talk.
Did you hear my prediction at the end of the last episode, Greg? There was a little treat.
Give the audience, but still listen to the podcast, because it's a really, really good podcast, Microbrew. Tell us the prediction you told your podcast fans.
Well, last year, not to pat myself too strongly on the back, but I predicted that Sal Frelick would homer in the playoffs. And that was a big deal because he'd hit 2 home runs all season. They both came in May. They were on back-to-back days. And I said, you know what? It's going to happen here in the playoffs. And then it did. So obviously I am clairvoyant and decided that I would let the fates speak to me again this year. I was open to possibly any sort of vision. And Greg, I think they're going to the World Series. This is what I shared is I think this team, I just believe it now. Yeah. I have this extraterrestrial is the wrong word, this supernatural faith that came to me.
Excellent.
That I think this team can go to the World Series. I did not say that I think they're going to win. I did say I think they're going to play the Seattle Mariners. Shout out to anybody who remembers the 1969 Seattle Pilots. And it was, but like the premise, the reality of it is that when you get to this point in the season, it isn't about numbers. It isn't about matchups. It isn't, I mean, it is to some degree, but it is about faith. It is about like teams just kind of getting the breaks and getting lucky. In baseball, 3 games is not enough sample to determine whether a team is better. 5 games is not enough sample. 7 is not enough sample. I mean, if you looked at the Brewers the last 7 games of the year, you would say, oh, that's not a playoff team,
right.
And obviously, this part of the year is about guys you weren't expecting coming up and becoming the hero. It's about, just a ball bouncing under somebody's glove. Like there are so many little tiny minutia, random events that are going to come into play. At some point, the Brewers will probably have their back up against the wall, and maybe they dig out of it and maybe they don't. But there's unfortunately just not a lot to say. They've put themselves in the best position possible. They're the number 1 seed. They have a favorable matchup in terms of you don't want to face this Dodgers team that we've seen over the last month through September and then into their first round series. So they're going to have the perceptively better opponent. And you just kind of gotta go with it. You just gotta kind of ride the wave. It's hard to do, but there's nothing else you can do now. They've done the hard part. Now it's just the ride the wave part.
Kevin, find George Michael's "You Gotta Have Faith." We'll play that for Greg and see if that makes him feel better.
It's weird. I want to get here. This is where I want us to be. And the moment we get here, I'm like, oh God, I'm gonna die inside because everything is falling apart. Because honestly, JR, they kind of went out the way they came in.
Like a lamb. Yeah.
Yes.
Very difficult to put to really wrap arms around what a baseball season is like in terms of, you get to a point where you're going to be a team that has a first round bye, and maybe you're not the number 1 seed, but it's just not the same level of baseball. You don't want guys getting hurt, so you're resting William Contreras the last couple of days of the season. Mm-hmm. I don't want to say they're taking it easy or don't care, because at the end of the day, it is a matchup between a batter and a pitcher, and you want to get a hit. So how much foot off the gas can you really get? And you see all the time teams that need the win lose to the Reds needed that last win of the season, and the Brewers went and got it. The Brewers played better on Sunday to get a 97th victory and a franchise record. So, you can't really say that there is such a thing as like taking your foot off the gas, but it was different, right? Like September, you kind of knew where the Brewers were going. They had sort of solidified it, and they just needed a break. They had guys who are hurt. William Contreras is a great example, but Sal Frelick, I mean, everybody needed, I think, a good stretch of time to just rest. Mm-hmm. So these 5 days could not be a better thing for the Brewers. It's perfect. They weren't playing well. They're banged up. Give them this time to recuperate, and they're going to be facing a team that only has 1 day of rest, which is still a lot in baseball. I mean, that's plenty, but they have been chilling at home, relaxing, vibing, and now hopefully that's a renewal source for them, and then they can really hit the ground running when the division series begins on Saturday.
So do the Packers just suck, or what is going on?
It is at least a question we have to ask. I think they're going to figure that out, and then really after the bye, if they show poorly against the Bengals, I think you got to push the alarm bells that something is just fundamentally wrong, and we got to start exploring how to fix it.
Galvin?
Yeah, I guess my biggest takeaway and biggest frustration from the Cowboys game was, yes, 40 points is too many for the defense to be giving up, but the special teams is absolutely abysmal, and it was a problem last year too. We've had multiple field goals blocked this year. We are consistently behind in the field position game off kickoffs. The special teams is just a problem.
Agreed. And we just throw up our hands trying to figure that out. Like there's no rhyme or reason for it. They have a great coach, or at least perceptively a great coach, who was brought in just for this, to transform that special teams unit from one of the worst in football to functional. That has not happened. It doesn't seem like the personnel doesn't matter. No one seems to be able to understand. It is enough of a weird thing, special teams, that it's really hard to grasp. Why isn't this working?
We appreciate the time of JR Radcliffe, and he is here every other Thursday to talk sports and give me counsel, because when the Brewers are in the playoffs, I get nervous. But you can always tune in Thursdays for Sports Talk on Matinee on Air at 10:35 and be part of the conversation by downloading the Civic Media app. You can get that directly in your app stores, whether you go to Apple or Google Play. Download it to your phone, and you can call, text, leave a voice note for our show, listen live anywhere in the world. It's very, very handy, and it's absolutely free. Absolutely free. See, that was a pun for you on a Friday morning. You are welcome. The app also allows you to take part in our text to win contests when we have those, and you'll know more when you listen to us on the Civic Media app. So get it right now, load it to your phone, load it to your device, and tell a friend. There is your mission for the day. You're listening to WAUK's Local Report on Mornings with Pat Kreitlow. For WAUK and Civic Media, my name is Greg Bach. I'll talk to you soon. Have a great weekend. You are amazing. Let no one tell you differently. It's 8:29.
The national news cycle never stops, but it can be hard to find news about your local community. Civic Media is dedicated to providing quality local and state news coverage across Wisconsin. With the Civic Media app, you can get notifications about local stories that matter to you and your community. Find the free Civic Media app in your phone's app store and choose notifications from the menu to tell us what kind of news you want to hear about.